Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, February 24th meeting of the Metropolitan Housing Trust Fund Commission. My name is Pete Westerholm, chair of this commission. I welcome you and appreciate your joining us this afternoon. We do have a packed agenda, so we want to get moving along. As a reminder, as Catherine has said, if you do wish to speak during our upcoming public hearing portion, public comment period, please sign the sign-up sheet, which is located over to my right. As a record of your attendance, we ask you to sign in on the general sign-in sheet at the table in front of us. With that said, pursuant to the provisions of 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, please take notice that the decisions of the Metropolitan Housing Trust Fund Commission may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under a common law writ of certiorari. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of final decision by the board. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedural questions are met. All right, having gone through the welcome, our first item of business is to acknowledge the resignation of Commissioner Debra Moore. Unfortunately, she can't be here today, but I know that all of us here appreciate the work that she put in, and we'll miss her. However, we do have a replacement coming in with Mr. Clayton Dunning. And Mr. Dunning, if you'd like to say a quick word of welcome.
Actually, it's Calvin. So first, I didn't want you guys to be right here calling me Clayton, because that was a little weird.
Push your button, Trump.
I said first thing, my name is Calvin Dunning. I said at first I didn't want you guys to be calling me Clayton because that would have been a little weird. But it's great to be here. Honored to be here. Definitely kind of acknowledge the amazing things you guys are doing. It's very important to the fabric of this city because a lot of times those things get kind of forgotten and kind of all these things that are moving so fast. I'm actually been here 13 years. I'm a banker here. Started out in capital markets, been in compliance. Now I work myself to business development, so I've been able to kind of see all the different parts of this thing from kind of the bottom to the top. So hopefully I can be an asset to you all, and happy to be here. So,
thank you, Calvin. All right, next item up is the approval of the minutes from the meeting on December 9th, 2025. Just as chair, I'll make a quick note that on the last section, and as an East Nashville person, in fact, I have to say this, but the Inglewood should be spelled with an I rather than an E. But with that notation, any other comments on the notes from that meeting? Is there a motion to approve? Move to approve, we have a second.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Anton. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next up, we'll go ahead and move into public comment and I'll ask for staff to go through the list of those who have signed up for public comment. And we ask everyone to keep it within a 2-minute time frame. And if there's, because we have a packed agenda, if there's a lot of comments on the same topic, try to make sure that you're adding something new if possible. But thank you very much, and we'll proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I do believe there was some requests for language assistance, and we have some translators here, maybe? Yes, they're here. So if I would request that someone that needs translation services have a little bit extra time to accommodate for that.
Of course.
So first, I will start with Mr. Stephen Watts.
It's been my honor and privilege to work with the residents of Drakes Creek Cooperative Is this the right place?
Mike? Okay.
Oh, we usually go there.
My bad.
Make sure your mic's on green. Please, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Stephen Watts with the Southeast Center for Cooperative Development. It's been my honor and privilege over the last year to work with the residents of Drakes Creek Cooperative. I'm proud to stand in solidarity with the residents and speak in support of this year-long extension with the sponsorship team that is currently on your agenda. When the Barnes Fund and the sponsorship team first worked together to acquire the property to form Nashville's first limited equity housing cooperative, the understanding was one, eligibility for the cooperative would be specifically for residents under 50% area median income, and two, residents who were over income would be able to stay on as renters. For the current ownership team, that's still a viable path and that keeps compliance with the Barnes Fund contract. But for the residents who will inherit the contract, I've continuously heard that that is not their preferred path. As a sponsorship team, I've seen us deal responsibly with dual mandates, but the resident owners only have one mandate, and that's really the benefit of cooperatives and the cooperative ecosystem. The one mandate is what makes it most feasible for everyone who's currently part of the community to stay. Our original belief that one group of residents could be cooperative members and over-income residents could stay renters was an incomplete solution. Long-term residents who have lived on the property for over a decade would still be allowed to be charged market or above market rent and therefore experience housing instability. Maybe their proximity to the cooperative will ensure this will not happen, maybe. Or the city can help codify it and amend the contract by allowing every resident who lived on property prior to conversion to be part of the cooperative, regardless of their income. This is called grandfathering and is considered best practice for income-restricted property acquisitions across the country and allows all of these residents to enter into this agreement altogether as they wish. So following me, there will be some residents who will speak in support of this one-year extension, some who could make it and some who could not. I believe that the city has it within its power to use that year to work to find a solution, such as grandfathering, that models best practices, honors the restrictions placed by y'all, the grantor, the sponsorship team, and most importantly, the existing residents of Drakes Creek. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, oh, excuse me for doing that. Next, we have Claire Hennigan.
It's just like the parking lot outside. Hello, my name is Claire Hennigan. I am going to emphasize that and I'm looking at you, Angie, I'm not here as a member of an organization or an organizer employee, though I will emphasize that my work with NOAA has really taught me the compassion and the willingness to collaborate that this commission has been built on, and I'm really excited for this opportunity to collaborate. And so I want to, in that spirit, I want to make sure that the residents who are not able to attend this meeting are heard. And this is one of their statements from Melissa Roberts, who's the Drakes Creek Cooperative Council co-chair. Drakes Creek Co-op needs all its neighbors to be able to live in a safe and affordable area. Drakes Creek Co-op provides that. We are asking for a one-time sunsetted exemption for conversion. With this granted exemption, it will provide stability. That's our goal for Davidson County residents. My neighbors and I have faced traumatic experiences due to rising rent, predatory property managements, dangerous neighbors, relocation from jobs, and financial instability from not making ends meet. With our Drakes Creek Co-op, we heal together. That is a mouthful. Barnes Fund, please help us on our healing journey. Your position provides stability that we can't get anywhere else in Davidson County. And so can you commit that we no longer have to endure housing trauma? And again, that's Melissa Roberts from Drakes Creek Cooperative Council co-chair. Say that 5 times fast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Terry Rapoon.
Thank you, and I know there are some new folks here today, so I want to make a statement about Westminster to start off with. We make home repairs and mobility modifications for low-income older adults and people with disabilities to age in place in their own homes. We've been doing this since the flood of 2010, and we have addressed thousands of homes, 316 last year, most in Davidson County. We will do 400 this year. So I have a very specific comment. As an existing grantee, we've had 6 Barnes Fund grants, so we've had a lot of experience over the years with Barnes Fund. It's been a key part of what's funded the houses we've been able to do. My comments don't relate to any changes in the documents in round 16 or the draft manual, but I want to elevate and acknowledge some things that I think will happen. The draft manual says that staff may make minor updates and revisions to the manual. And I want to say that for grantees, and I'm talking about once you're actually awarded a grant and you've signed a contract and you're in the grant period, there are going to be questions that we're going to need the staff to give us guidance on an ongoing basis, even with the manual. And we've done that over the years. And here's an example of something that seems very obvious and clear in the manual, but in the real world, we're going to have questions as it plays out. The owner-occupied RFA says that the home must be used as the primary residence of the owner. So that seems as straightforward as it can get. It's not rentals, it's not Airbnbs, it's for owner-occupied property. But when you go to the property assessor's office and you actually look at the deed documents, you find things that don't quite fit in a box. It seems pretty obvious, and I think it is obvious, but we need documentation for compliance. So we would, and we have in the past, asked staff. I'll give you an example. Jane Doe lives in a home, and you go and look at the deed, and it says the property is owned by the Jane Doe Revocable Trust. Well, we talked to a title insurance lawyer, and he says Jane Doe owns the property. But in that case, we would go back to the staff and say, okay, Jane Doe owns the property, but if you object to this, let us know. And that works. You can't cover every situation in the manual, so we just want to acknowledge there will continue to be staff guidance and questions that we'll need help with. There's other situations other than ownership that we run across during a grant period. We've never had a manual before. We're glad to have it, but I just want to say we still need staff guidance to contemplate it as a part of our ongoing process.
All right, thank you, Terry.
Next, we have Medina. Okay, come on up.
Good afternoon. My name is Medina. I am a resident at the cottages of Drake Creek. I have proudly lived in this community for nearly 3 years and have hoped to continue my future here as part of the new cooperative model. Like many of my neighbors, I was very excited about the co-op concept. The opportunity for residents to share ownership, have a voice in decisions, and building long-term stability in the place we call home. Unfortunately, some of us have now discovered we fall into a narrow income gap. We earn slightly above the cooperative eligibility limit, yet not enough to secure comfortable housing that's comparative somewhere else. This places us at a real risk of displacement from our community, where we are already established and contributing members. For working families like mine, this is not simply a housing change. It is the possible loss of stability, relationship, and belonging. We understand this cooperative transition is new for everyone, and with a new model, there can be unforeseen impacts. This is one of those unforeseen moments where a thoughtful adjustment can prevent unintentional harm. So today, I respectably ask on behalf of myself and my affected neighbors for a one-time accommodation in the income guidelines, either by modestly increasing the eligibility medium income threshold or by grandfathering current residents who fall slightly above the limit into the cooperative. This request is about preserving existing community while implementing new policy. It allows the cooperative vision to move forward without displacing residents as it was meant to be. I ask you to consider, would this translate preserving community or intentionally fracture it? I believe there is a solution that honors both the cooperative framework and the residents who already call the cottages home. I thank you for your time today and your consideration.
All right, thank you, Ms. Medina.
Next, we have Carolyn Jackson.
I've never been around so many important people. I said, look at my past. It's most important. Good afternoon. How y'all doing? I did not write an eloquent speech, but I will speak from the heart. I am a resident of Drakes Creek. I have been there for 5 years, and one of the most beautiful things that I have seen living in this community is the community. the community of neighbors, the community where my grandbabies can come over and just have a safe time. Threatening to be displaced or not knowing can be uncertain. So we're just asking that you give us an opportunity to be grandfathered in for those who may be above or below, but that the ball is in your court and that you can make this the first cooperative that stands in Nashville, Tennessee. And we promise you we'll take good care of it. Thank you.
Next, we have Horatio Gonzalez.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Horacio Jerónimo González.
Good afternoon. My name is Horacio Jerónimo González.
Vivo en los apartamentos que se llama Dry Creek
I live in the apartments that are called Dry Creek,
y quiero pertenecer a la corporación Co-op. Vivo por 7 años en esos apartamentos que he encontrado una felicidad y
I've been living in the Co-op Creek apartments for 7 years, and I've found a happiness that
no he tenido un lugar estable como ese lugar.
I haven't had a consistent and stable place like that.
Y quisiera darle gracias a Dios y después a ustedes, señores,
And I would like to thank God and also you
por permitirme y darme una oportunidad de gozar una paz con mis vecinos,
to be able to have a peace with my neighbors.
que yo los veo como mis hermanos y no los veo como vecinos.
And I don't see them as neighbors, I see them like brothers.
No tengo mucha palabra para especificar lo alegre que estoy
Okay. I do not have enough words to express how happy I am.
y espero que escuchen mi, ¿cómo se le puede decir?
And I hope,
Mi petición
and I hope you can listen to my petition
por su ayuda económica que nos ha dado
for the economic help that you have given us
y pertenecer
and to belong
a Co-op,
to Co-op.
y eso es todo. Gracias.
And that's all. Thank you.
Next, we have Clementine.
¿Habla español también? Sí. Okay. Tome asiento y vaya despacio, por favor.
Hola, muy buenas tardes, querido público.
Okay, hi, good afternoon, your dear public.
Gracias por la oportunidad de estar aquí.
Thank you for the opportunity of being here.
El motivo es porque nosotros pertenecemos a esa cooperativa
The purpose is because we belong
y
to
es
that
importante
cooperative.
y porque no es porque uno sea una persona de hispana.
And it's not because we are Hispanic.
Nosotros merecemos tener una vivienda digna,
And we deserve to have a
digna y
dignified
que
house
por nuestra familia,
for our family.
ya que, por ejemplo, en mi caso,
At least in my
yo tengo
case,
una hermana especial
I have a special sister.
y que yo vivo con ella
I live with her.
y yo lucho cada día por estar en este país dignamente.
And I fight every day to be in this
Y
country
espero que
with dignity.
Espero que piensen en nosotros, porque somos personas y tenemos derecho a estar en este país.
Okay, and I hope you think about us and
Y también
you
tener una,
consider that we have
y,
also
y
the
también
right to
tener
be
una
here.
vivienda digna, porque eso es lo que merecemos, porque venimos a luchar a este país,
We deserve to have a good place to live, and that's
porque
what we
en
come here
nuestros
to fight.
países
In our
no,
country,
no tenemos los derechos que tenemos aquí.
we don't have the same rights we have over here.
Hay mucha inseguridad en nuestros países
There's a lot of insecurity in our country,
y mucha violencia,
a lot of violence,
y por eso estamos aquí en este país
and that's why we're here in this country.
y no tenemos y gracias a Dios este país nos ha dado la oportunidad
And thank God that this country has given
de
us
estar
the
aquí.
opportunity to be here.
y gracias a ustedes porque nos han brindado la oportunidad de estar aquí
And thanks to you, we have had the opportunity of being
y
here,
a Dios.
and God.
Amén.
Amen.
Eso es todo.
That's all.
Thank you. Next, we have Alan Luna.
Alan Luna, ¿habla español también? Sí. Ah, usted, Alan.
All right. Hi, everyone. I wrote this down, so I'll go ahead and read it. I'm going to be reading on behalf of Serge Avakov. It says, Serge Avakov, my wife Valerie, and my son Elijah have been staying in Drakes Creek for over 4 years. My wife has been sick since my son was born. This is the only place I find affordable, but unfortunately they told me I make too much. But between my wife's sickness, we are in debt, close to $25K in medical bills. To be honest, I make around $54K a year, living from paycheck to paycheck due to the circumstance. It costs me from $400 to $600 a month in gas to provide for my family. Thank you for considering us. I joined the cooperative to make sure I can continue to provide for my family with a more stable rent. I do have the knowledge on how to help the property or improve if needed. That is all. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Karina Reyes.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Karina Reyes. I'm a resident at Drake Creek for the past 4 years. I'm a single woman. I live alone. And to find a safe place where I can walk in at night without looking around over my shoulder or worry that my car might be broke down, that's a very important thing for me. Hard to find under my budget. And finding it at Drake Creek, where I know that my neighbors are always watching for me, that we always taking care of each other. Mr. Harry is not here. He's one of the elders, neighbors. I know that every single neighbor take care of him. We go check on him, make sure that he's still safe, that he has food, that it's okay if he needs anything for his health. We are there for him, and he is there for us with words of knowledge that time has given him. I did not believe on the co-op at the beginning, to be honest. I started going to the meetings just out of curiosity to know my neighbors better. And I kept going because what I was learning, in my head, it was making sense. Giving us the chances to the neighbors to take over the property that we were leaving, where we had management and owners that were not taking care of the place, to have the chance to actually take care of each other and make sure that we're getting what we're paying for, and it's still affordable for us, for the ones that we are singles, and we also taking care of families. I take care of my mom. Once my father passed away, I took the full responsibility. So it's sometimes a little bit hard. So knowing that we can have a stable home, stay as a family, because we are a family, or my neighbors are my family, to take care of each other. So we ask you if you can please give us a chance to start this project, keep going, and let us stay the ones that we do a little bit over the budget. We will really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Keith Branson.
Hello. I work with Terry, Westminster Home Connection, and I guess it's been since 2017, round 5. We've been involved with the Barnes Fund and seeing how it's been talked about and negotiated and discerned on the differences in the new builds and the major rehabs and how you differentiate in some ways on those. So today, what I wanted to do is you're finalizing the ink on the scoring matrix and the manual to give you a couple of proposed revised wordings here that I think are important for clarity and continuity later. So in the application for round 16 owner-occupied rehab projects, it reads like this, 5.6.5. Grantees are encouraged to correct any existing, and here's a word that's in there, code violations identified within the home, even if it not in the initial scope of work. This ensures that all properties meet current local building code, safety standards, and regulatory requirements, ensuring both the long-term sustainability of the project and the health and safety of its residents. So part of the problem here is that because something in a home is not at current code in the books doesn't mean that it's a code violation. Something that was a code and built to code 3 or 4 years ago doesn't change and become a code violation today if it's properly working and in place. And Metro codes, the local jurisdiction here doesn't put these restrictions on us or anybody. So we would recommend the sentence be revised to say, grantees are encouraged to ensure that all properties meet current local building codes, safety standards, and regulatory requirements in the areas where work was performed, ensuring both the long-term sustainability of the project and the health and safety of its residents. And then the same similar adjustment in the scoring matrix where it says project approach, design quality, instead of saying proposes to address all codes issues in the home, not just limited to the scope of work, to say proposes to address code issues in the home in the areas where work was performed. Hope that makes sense. Could I leave this with someone that has the wording? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you. Next, we have Rosemary Rieja.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosemary Rieger. I'm with the Southeast Center for Cooperative Development, and I'd like to read a statement from our center on behalf of the residents of Drakes Creek. We've had the honor and pleasure to work closely with the residents of the 60-unit Drakes Creek cottages as they prepare to convert their residents to the area's first limited equity housing cooperative. This conversion promises permanent affordability far beyond the 30-year term of the Barnes stipulation. Converting an occupied rental complex whose residents were not organized prior is the most challenging cooperative conversion situation ever. What the residents experienced and what we witnessed is a transformation from renters who would see each other but were insular to residents connected and working in solidarity to become community. This is a transformation from being vulnerable tenants to residents empowered by coming together. A transformation from renters who silently accepted previous neglectful landlords and deferred maintenance to residents with a voice and the will to preserve and build home. This has not been done before in Nashville. The residents of Drakes Creek are proud of what they are accomplishing and hopeful for the quality of life they are building by coming together and democratically exerting their will to establish the roots of community in this place, their home. They wish to keep the unity which is blossoming and has made this transformation possible. They ask that you consider the uniqueness of conversions while building community, the uniqueness of permanence they are crafting, and grant grandfather exemptions for longtime residents who have been key in making this happen. They now have a voice, and they are asking you to truly hear them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Dawn Harrington.
Hi, my name is Dawn Harrington. I'm the Executive Director of Free Hearts, and we're on the project team for this exciting project and standing in solidarity with the residents of Drakes Creek Limited Equity Housing Cooperative. I'm here today to respectfully ask to grant a one-time exception to grandfather in the residents who have lived on the property at the time of acquisition that made over 50% of area median income so that no one is displaced. We all know that housing situation in Nashville is fragile. Displacement is not just an inconvenience, it triggers homelessness, disrupts children's education, destabilizes families, and fractures entire communities. Once someone loses stable housing, the ripple effects can last for years to come. We have an opportunity here to prevent that harm before it happens. Even for those who do not meet the guidelines, the reality is that many Nashvillians are still living paycheck to paycheck. The cost of living remains high. Today, a comfortable lifestyle for a family in Nashville requires roughly $111,530 annually, while our median salary is only about $56,550. That gap tells the story. People may not qualify as low income on paper, but they are struggling in real life. Drakes Creek Limited Equity Cooperative is the first of its kind in Nashville and in Tennessee. It represents an innovative, community-centered housing model that promotes stability, shared ownership, and long-term affordability. This project has the potential to make history, and more importantly, to serve as a model that can be replicated across our city. Nashville needs more affordable housing models, not fewer. We need creative solutions that give people stability and a path to ownership. Granting this one-time exception would protect current residents while allowing this groundbreaking model to move forward. It would send a clear message that Nashville values stability, community, and responsible innovation. I urge you to grandfather in the existing residents. Let's choose stability over displacement, opportunity over uncertainty, and progress that includes the people who were already there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sean Riley.
Hey y'all, good afternoon. Similarly, I'll be reading some of the words from residents that were not able to get off work to be here today. The words of Tim Hazelwood. I'm a millennial. Before the co-op, after seeing rent had been raised to $12.50, I was beginning the process to move to Clarksville or Fairview, preferring a lengthy commute to downtown Nashville over dedicating a half a month's income towards rent. I'm aware that I make above the arbitrary income that was decided was needed to qualify, but after speaking with those working to make the transition possible, I chose to stay. Even though I couldn't join the board or make decisions to provide whatever financial support I can to help my neighbors and to put the fate of our community back in the hands of those who actually live here. But I'm now being told that my support doesn't matter, that I don't deserve to have my rates lowered, that there's nothing I can do to help myself or those in my community because I'm not poor enough. From another resident. My name is Monica Gretter. I would like it to be known that Carolyn and Mark are great neighbors. After the ice storm, Mark was out with a golf club, chipping ice off of my porch and steps. He said he wished he had a snow shovel, and so I loaned him mine. He got the rest of the snow and ice off the rest of the porch and steps and shoveled the walk. He also spent considerable time helping me to get out of my parking space. Oscar was also a good neighbor and always gave me a big hug and was genuinely kind to me. Carolyn offered me food the day of the storm. She cooked right before the electricity went out. They let me have the best parking spot. I guess they've seen my handicap placard. In short, they've been very kind to me, and I'd sure hate it if they were forced to leave the cottages. Personally, as Sean, I ask you to listen to these residents about the community that they have built. How many of us in this room can say we know our neighbors and live interdependently in the way that my friends at Drakes Creek do? I'm in awe every day of the work that the community has put in to make a home that reminds me of the block I grew up on, where folks knew each other and helped each other out. I ask that the Barnes Fund continues to work with the Southeast Center for Cooperative Development and other community partners to work together to find creative solutions, to grandfather all of the pre-existing residents in Drakes Creek to the co-op, allowing all of the residents to be full participants in decision-making, to live in stable, permanently affordable housing, and to protect this special community that these residents have worked so hard to build. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Donna Burks. Is that correct? All right.
Good afternoon. My name is Donna Burks. I moved to Drakes Creek in August. I am under the medium income. I joined Drakes Creek because the co-ops offered me an opportunity to have ownership in my housing and have a voice in where we live. I feel that the residents that are asked to be grandfathered in are the ones that have been in the property the longest. I feel that they are the ones that have laid the foundation for our safe, peaceful community. Their voices and decisions are what this is for. I also work as a social worker, and I spend my day trying to help people avoid eviction or not helping them avoid it. When people don't have access to stable housing, it creates a domino effect in the entire family. That is why I'm here, to protect the residents' access to stable, affordable housing, and also to help continue grow our community. That's it.
Thank you. Next, we have Rosa Ponce.
Hello, my name is Rosa Ponce. I'm with the Southeast Center. I got to work with many of the Spanish-speaking residents, and I just want to let y'all know that this morning, a few of us that are here spent our morning up at Cordell Hall with over 120 people from across the state for Housing for All. So just advocating for all the things that I think we're talking about here. So in the words of Sean Schufer, a hopeful co-op tenant, the thought of being in a co-op was new to me. Once explained, my interest went up to wanting to sign up. I am a woman who took the courage to start over, and this co-op seems like a good option. So far, it's been quiet and secure. All of who are here now make it that way. I am asking and believe that the only thing that needs to change are a few exceptions for the ones who have been here faithfully paying their rent to continue to stay and be part of this co-op. Displacing them would hurt them, but even more than that, our community. We need this co-op here. It would be historical and help so many, including me. Thanks, Drakes Creek. And then I have one more. These are the words of Dejan Roberts. My wife, my toddler son, and I live in Drakes Creek and have been since October. This community is great for us and our son, and we are grateful to be here. I can't speak for everyone, but me and my wife do not recall ever discussing our income level when applying and moving into Drakes Creek. The AMI policy to have residents under 50% is new to me, and I'm assuming most of the co-op who have lived here for a long time. I urge the board to consider this in their discussions of co-ops in the future and the future of us residents, and allow those already moved in to stay, and work to create consistent communication between the co-op, the board, and the property managers currently helping to fill up the community with more residents. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, we have Mick Nelson.
Hey, everybody. Nelson Community Partners. Two quick points. I just want to recommend for the current scoring that's being considered today that I believe a project that, say, has 50 units that asks for $3 million will score the same amount as a project that is exactly the same that asks for $1 million. So $60,000 a unit and $20,000 a unit. I believe under the current scoring rubric that will score the same. I think most of us agree that if those two projects are the same, we should do 3 of the latter projects and do 150 units, then fund one 50-unit project. So I think adding an extra tier of scoring when it comes to subsidy per unit would be another tier or 2 would be a great idea. Secondly, I would just like to ask that this commission consider making a public statement in support of $30 million for the Barnes Fund on this upcoming budget cycle. This would be aligning with the city's own unified housing strategy, as you've heard probably a few times before, and I think it also aligned with your role as stewards of the Barnes Fund. So they're the 2 asks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chair, we are ready to move on to the next item on the agenda.
All right. Thank you, Director Hubbard. Appreciate that. And thank you for all the public comments and those who have provided. We are now up to item number 6, the financial update. This is the budget to actuals that's being pulled up before you. And I'll pass it over to staff to walk us through any highlights.
Yes, this shows both December and January, since we had to cancel the January meeting. You will notice for, we've lost a heading at the top of that would be, December actuals, the negative $2.9 million. What that reflects is in the fall, we, a draw request was in our payment system that we actually stopped payment on because we didn't have sufficient documentation. A check was never cut, but Metro Finance journaled that to the Barnes Fund, and then when they did their reconciliation at the end of the year, they realized they didn't journal that credit back, and it showed up on the December financials, but there was never any check cut or anything repaid. That's just a journal correction. And then you can see the rest is just what we have expended over the course of the year, cumulatively, and through even a portion of February is reflected on the financials.
All right, thank you, Director Hubbard. Any questions or comments from commission members? All right, thank you for that. Moving on to item 7, these are the items for a vote. First of these is the Housing Trust Fund Commission election of officers. We have 2 roles that need to be determined. This is number 1, the election of chair, and 2, election of vice chair. Are there,
Do you call for nominations for chair? Sorry.
Sure, yeah, you can call for nominations of chair. There may be more than one person that's nominated. If the person that is nominated is interested, please express your interest. And we will do a roll call vote if more than one person is interested in an office.
all right, thank you, legal. Are there any nominations for chair?
I nominate Peter Westerhomer. Okay, for chair. Thanks.
Are there any others? Seeing none others? I guess if there's just one, we don't need to vote. I appreciate the vote of confidence.
I'm sorry, you still need to vote.
Okay.
It just doesn't have to be a
Sorry
roll
about
call
that.
vote because, yes, we will need a motion and a second and a vote, please.
So, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, Westerholm is reappointed for chair. All right, next up is election of vice chair. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Antone.
We have a nomination and a second. Any further nominations? All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right. Antone is our vice chair once again. Congratulations. All right. Next up is the series of grant contract amendments. First of these is from Urban Housing Solutions. This is a revision to the draw schedule. I'll ask staff to walk us through what was presented to us in our packets.
Thank you. This actually came before you at our December meeting to change the draw request. Unfortunately, due to a mathematical error in the draw request, not totaling 100%, we corrected that. But we caught it before we filed the legislation with council. So since you approved it in a previous form, we're asking that you reapprove it with the corrected draw schedule percentages.
All right, thank you for that explanation. Are there any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next item. This is Inspiritus with a contract extension. I'll pass over to staff to walk us through what was provided in our packets.
Thank you. Yes, Inspiritus has requested their third amendment. They've had a prior amendment to extend the contract, another amendment to change their payment methodology. This is to extend the term of the contract for an additional 12 months. The current contract expires on April the 4th. The project is well underway. If you drive by it, you can see the substantial progress made. They have expended over $1.5 million through 3 draws, and we recommend that you approve this extension.
Thank you, Director Hubbard. Any questions from the commission? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve? We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. All right, next up is the third contract amendment. This is the William Franklin Buchanan contract extension. Passes over to staff to walk us through what was provided in the packets.
Thank you. This is the amendment to extend the conversion deadline for the Drakes Creek Cooperative to June 30, 2027, as well as the contract term to June 30, 2027. If I could just give a little bit of background on this project. This came about when Mayor Cooper in 2022 offered the Housing Division opportunity to use American Rescue Plan Act funds to address housing needs. So we took that opportunity to create some innovative pilot lowercase to introduce some new concepts. So we launched 3 new different pathways, one around shared equity homeownership, one around housing for older adults through various activities, and then one for innovative housing solutions for families. And we convened a working group of various internal and external stakeholders. And with this $7 million, that was one of the pathways, we determined that through the working group and data, that households at 50% or below of the area median income have extreme housing instability and insecurity, and also lack the pathways to traditional homeownership. The commission had recently heard a presentation on housing cooperatives, so we used this opportunity to file legislation, which is unusual. Most of our Barnes Fund money is just a budgetary appropriation, and we make the grant policy. With ARP money, we had to specifically file legislation that told exactly what the money was going to be used for. In this case, we said it would be for households at 50% AMI in a housing cooperative. Why that is significant is the U.S. Department of Treasury has 2 deadlines. One was December 31st, 2024. That deadline was the obligation deadline for all ARP money. After that deadline, any ARP-funded project cannot change its scope. That means we cannot change a contract to change the scope of how we use that money. 12/31/26 is the expenditure deadline for all ARP projects. We don't have a situation here, the money was spent for the acquisition. So in consultation with Metro Legal, who is monitoring all the Treasury rules, that an amendment through this body would still be inconsistent with the legislation that awarded the funds. That would require an amendment, and that would trigger noncompliance with Treasury, because we would be increasing that AMI above 50% where this money went in to benefit a unit would be outside of the scope that we've reported to Treasury past the deadline. So that is the quandary that we are in. We are, though, committed, and it was reflected in the contract, that no one be displaced. And that's why the contract allowed for tenants to remain. They just couldn't participate in the co-op over income, because that was the project we funded. We are proposing this extension so that we can continue to have these conversations, looking at viable paths that might be achieved, including if there was an opportunity for a mixed income housing cooperative, it would result in a portion of the Barnes Fund portion to be paid back. Barnes Fund units are in the income restricted portion. But there could be some pathways. Unfortunately, if we recapture ARPA money, it goes back to Metro Finance. It does not go back to the Barnes Fund at this late in the game. But we want that opportunity to continue to work and have these conversations, and most importantly, preserve the housing for the residents that you heard about, who came out today and who sent their comments, and we're very appreciative for everyone that's here. This is lessons learned, I think, for everyone on some of the implications of acquiring occupied housing, whether it is for rent, a co-op, a condo, for any use, that will have us reflect on future learnings, and would like to have that conversation with the folks at Drake's Creek on what could we prepare for the next time there is any kind of acquisition of an occupied house or an occupied building. So with that, we recommend approval of these extension of the milestone as well as the extension of the contract amendment.
Thank you for that description. Director Hubbard, questions from the commission? I guess I'll go defer to.
I'll just say I appreciate y'all looking for a creative solution in the short run, and I'm pleased that there's also an effort to think through this on the long run. I would say I hope we don't see this as a reason not to buy occupied properties, because it seems to have been really successful. And so I hope we just look at all the options of if we can income average, similar to the way we can do on low-income housing tax credits, or just what other types of mechanisms could allow for someone who is becoming successful to still be a participant, because I think there's value in that. So thank y'all for coming up with the solution for today.
Preservation of existing housing is equally important, and keeping people in their homes as building new. And we will certainly, this gives us opportunities to work with the community members on how we can accomplish that in the future.
Any further questions or comments from commission members? Yeah.
It's been really great hearing everybody from the cooperative, because this is such a new project for us. We're one of the first done in the South. And I don't know, seeing everybody take agency and fight for their community, I think that's what we want. And to me, that bodes really well for cooperatives for the future. And I'll be looking forward to approving more cooperatives in the future.
We actually have 2 cooperatives that were approved with round 15. So we're excited to see more come in.
For the round 15 co-ops, did those have ARPA dollars, or was it just Drake's Creek?
Just Drake's Creek. Round 15 was regular operating funds. So that's what makes this one particularly complicated, was the lesson learned narrow legislation.
I did have a question. So with the round 15, does this look like it's going to be the similar situation where they bought occupied buildings?
So that round 15 income level is 80% AMI, and it's also not a narrow piece of legislation.
All right. Any further questions from the commission?
I guess maybe just a request for an update about what the displacement policy ends up being, or anti-displacement, let me clarify. I think someone mentioned unintended consequences, and I think it's difficult situation. I think it's important to me on this body to understand how exactly that plays out, the lessons learned. Now we can protect the folks that showed up and shared their stories today.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, see no other questions. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Chair will second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. All right, next up is the approval of the grant application policies and procedural manual. This has been provided to commission members to review. This is for around 16 plus, so I think I'll pass it over to staff to walk us through our work on this.
Thank you. So the grant application policies and procedures manual isn't actually intended to be tied to a particular funding round. We regularly get inquiries on what's the process for applying for a Barnes Fund grant. And all public agencies have some policies and procedures, rules around their procurement. This isn't considered a procurement, but it is a competitive process. So this was just intended to provide an outline or a framework that when anyone inquires about what's the process for the Barnes Fund, how do you apply for a grant, how are awards chosen, this just lives in a very objective space on our website that we can share. It is not intended to take the place of one-on-one conversations with grantees or applicants. It's just to create this overall, and also to give the commission guidance on what their roles are when it comes to a funding round. And we presented in December our draft recommendations. We made some revisions. Those are on your screen and in the red line version that we shared with you. But a couple of big things I wanted to highlight. Of course, all of them had some still grammatical and editorial edits that we made, but we got consistent feedback on all of the working groups that we had around the language that essentially, what would happen if one funding track, if we use multiple funding tracks as we propose, if one's undersubscribed, how would those awards be made? And we got some good recommendations on the language, which is what we've included or revised it to. So in the event that, this is for partial funding, I'm sorry. Both of those, it's applicable that if one is underfunded, that balance of funds and two are oversubscribed, the process for how the commission would make those awards would be to the next highest based on percents, because not every project type has the same number of points. So that was one consideration. If the next, if there's only one oversubscribed and balance from the other two, then it would just go in the same order of the next highest ranking or highest scoring project on the list. So that was one of the changes that we made. We made a change. We had previously stated in section 2.5 that applicants who didn't receive funds have the opportunity to consult with staff to review. We received requests to allow that to be open to anyone, even applicants, and we don't want to restrict their access to review and discuss their applications. We have some updates to the records retention piece to make sure it's aligned with Metro's records retention policy. And then the last one on revisions and amendments, that was a new section just to allow housing division staff to make minor edits. These are, again, more grammatical or clarification pieces, but anything that's considered substantial, that would need to come back for Housing Trust Fund Commission review and approval. And so with that, we are recommending approval of the grant application policies and procedures manual.
Thank you, Director Hubbard. Any feedback, questions from the commission? Councilor Allen, start with you.
So based on the comment that we had, does this 7.0 revisions and amendments also sort of cover the ground of interpretations by the staff?
So you can't capture every scenario in a policies and procedures. I think primary residence, there's legal definitions of primary residence that garner those same conversations. That's not a unique caveat in any program like this. So that would allow that flexibility to make sure that the primary, that the person benefiting from this is actually residing in the home. That's the intent of this, that caveat in the rehab program.
Right, so I see
Yes.
that as a specific example of
Yes.
things will come up where
Right.
the letter of the law doesn't specifically spell it out. Does this section 7.0 sort of give y'all the latitude you need to make other interpretations as they
Yes,
come up?
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the commission members? All right, well, we appreciate the work that staff put in putting this together. Appreciate the key revisions to the manual slide. This is a helpful way to look through everything. And so this is something we do need to approve with a vote. With no other questions from the commission, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So move.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a second. Any further discussion? All those who are in favor of approval of the grant application policies and procedural manual, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Next on our agenda is the approval of round 16 grant policies and scoring matrices. There are 3 of these: the rental and co-op projects, homeownership projects, and owner-occupied rehab projects. I would like to take these up one at a time. Starting with the rental and co-op projects.
Thank you. So settle in. We have several slides because we wanted to make sure that both the commission as well as the public understand the final revisions that we made. We're starting with the grant policy. You can see these key revisions that we made. There were some other editorial and clarifications within the text of the grant policy. The first, again, is being consistent with the application manual around the funding allocation and what happens when one funding track is oversubscribed and the others are not. The next is around eligibility requirements. We adapted this to all 3 project types. We had some very narrow language around complaints, and we changed that based on feedback to actual judgments or adverse findings, so that giving credit to, let me walk that back. If an applicant or any of its team members, if there was just simply a complaint against them, was not necessarily gone through a due process piece, but if they had an actual judgment or an adverse finding, then that would be the threshold criteria. So that was based on feedback from, consistent from applicants and participants. The next was the result of questions that we received around whether Barnes funds could be used on a project that already had a lien or another deed of trust on it. And so we came with clarifying language that a project or a property cannot already be encumbered by a deed restriction other than anything that would render the Barnes fund deed unenforceable except through a foreclosure, or give the lien holder any kind of first right of refusal unless it's on behalf of HUD, because that's also funds that is on Metro's behalf. Through any other public agency like THDA or MDHA or the Catalyst Fund. And why that matters is that if there's already a deed or a lien in place and then we come with our Barnes Fund restrictive covenants, that's hard for us to enforce because we're already behind someone else that has an enforcement mechanism. So we did that clarification. And then again, 8.1 also speaks to the how we said no partial funding. We're going to allow it for like the last one on the list if there's still a balance before it is moved to another pot if that pot's oversubscribed. So those were some of the key things that we made revisions to in the grant policy. I'm going to look through some of the other comments to see if there's anything else that we needed to address. A couple of clarifying questions that we received was around whether a nonprofit had to be registered with the Tennessee Secretary of State, and that is an absolute response from our finance department, that the registration must be in Tennessee and that standing in another state is not acceptable. So those are some other clarifying processes. Then we're going to move to key revisions in the scoring matrix, starting with the housing security criteria. Where you see the strike-throughs is the language that we've changed, so we've made some things, some ranges. Key thing here was we struck the points around special populations as a standalone criteria after great feedback and further research into fair housing. We took the targeting piece out, but we incorporated it through a new one on housing size to try to target more 3 or more bedrooms to accommodate larger families. Also in a fair housing and affirmative marketing piece around providing outreach to populations least likely to apply, but also that represent or serve populations that have been underserved or have traditional barriers to housing. So those were some of the key changes that we made in the housing security criteria. Next slide, please. Oh, sure, absolutely.
Before I forget it. So, I mean, one of the things that we heard from the residents of Drakes Creek was the fact that they, some of them may have started out under a criteria, but then they move just above it or whatever. And to me, in terms of housing security, is there any mechanism for leeway, or do we not, will this obligate them to removing tenants who become successful if they then become above a percentage AMI?
The distinguishing factor is whether they were a new tenant or existing.
In that case, but in this scoring criteria, as we set it up for future projects, are we creating the same scenario?
If someone is someone has to be income eligible to enter into a Barnes Fund unit, regardless of whether it's any project type.
Right.
If their income increases, we have provisions for treating income increases in rents or other scenarios that doesn't result in displacement, similar to how Light Tech handles it in the rental space. But the Drakes Creek distinguishing factor is the legislation and the ARP money that limit it to that 50% that can't be adjusted.
Excellent. Okay, but all these others, that's not an issue.
But as income rises, the last thing we want is for anyone to be punished because that's what you want, housing security to lead to other great benefits for a household.
Gotcha. And this scoring matrix does not put any limits on that. Thank you.
No. In project approach, we didn't make substantial changes here. We clarified instead of 1 mile of transit, we added transit stop, just so everyone's clear on what we meant by transit. We also clarified that broadband, everything that's new is highlighted in yellow, is at the site to distinguish rather than to the particular units, because that is a difficult thing to achieve when you have a vacant parcel. And then we removed on the sustainability and resiliency criteria, the 20 elements, because there aren't 20. It is either 15 or all. So that's the changes on project approach criteria. Any questions? Yes.
Quick question on the transit stops. I know that on some corridors, based on the existing density of development, they may not have a stop, but as the development along that corridor evolves, sometimes there's another stop warranted. Can that be factored in at all, or is it based on what's existing at the time of the application?
We will consider what's existing. Also, if it's an all-access corridor, that would also tell that. Or if the project proposes to include a transit stop.
Thank you.
Excellent. Oh, no worries. Next is the underwriting criteria. We don't have any changes in the developer qualifications. Under project readiness, we received feedback because, the topography of Nashville, all the flat, great property is already gone and pretty much everything else has site constraints. So rather than having a stringent criteria that would really not be realistic for a lot of projects, we changed the language to require that an applicant demonstrate that they conducted extensive due diligence and has reasonably identified the constraints on the site and any environmental hazards, and incorporated those costs and the time to mitigate in their budget and their development timeline. Next slide on underwriting criteria. No changes to the financial capacity. We did add a new section on, or a new point under funding need, which are costs are reasonable and necessary to achieve the project scope based on current industry standards, and there is language around that. But that also gets to if there are the on-site infrastructure needs, because again, someone may have a higher per unit cost, but they might have to be carrying a lot of on-site infrastructure or address some mitigation needs. But we want to make sure that that's reflected. If someone's has a high per unit cost and isn't reflective of that, then that is not, wouldn't look like that would be reasonable and necessary. So that's where we kind of picked up on helping to weed through some of the per unit cost or some of the overall cost of the project. And then the last one, this is the only one with bonus points. We just changed the at least to ranges and we'll go back through and make sure anything that has the percents, we have the ranges rather than at least, so that's very clear on the range that we're targeting.
Quick question. So what's the logic behind doing the 30% instead of doing fixed number amounts? Like, for example, if one developer was able to build way cheaper than another.
Oh, would you go back? Are you looking at the funding need? Which one are you looking at?
So funding request is less than 50% of total budget. So why do it 50% of total budget versus have a set amount average?
Well, we heard a lot of feedback because, again, the costs fluctuate depending on the project, where it is, what all they have to do on site. And that keeps us from automatically excluding some projects inadvertently that might be a little bit higher. Or also to keep back to the intent of this one, the Barnes Fund being the first money in. Also, this is getting at that. Oh, no, that's the different one. That's the funding commitment. I'm looking back at this. It is to get at that, again, considering projects and all that they have to accomplish to make sure that we're not just eliminating projects. They might have a higher need because of all of the things that they have to do to accomplish, or they're doing some deeply affordable housing as well.
Thank you.
Can I follow up on that as well?
Sure.
So the statement here, costs are reasonable and necessary to achieve the project scope based on current industry standards. Since we are not subject experts, my understanding is there is a HUD standard based on different size. Would it be helpful to specifically refer to that in some way so that, just so that we've got a specific, here's how we, me, I like a rubric. And, so there's a chart that shows for this number of bedrooms and this percent AMI, this is what reasonable looks like this year.
Absolutely. I don't know if we'll get at that level because I don't know if that considers like on-site. We're, again, having lots of conversations in the city about infrastructure issues on sites. If that HUD, but there is HUD language. I actually just had to do it for a grant and demonstrate our reasonable and necessary cost. And using that very similar language, we will have that guidance both for the grantees to understand what we're looking for. We'll have tables for them to fill out in the actual application piece, but also make sure that the evaluation committee is educated on how to look at that.
Gotcha.
Any further questions? All right, back to you.
All right, well, that concludes the overview of the changes that we made to the rental grant policy and scoring matrix. So, Chair, we recommend approval of the scoring matrix and grant policy.
All right, thank you for walking us through that, Director. We have heard the presentation and I'm sure any typos can be fixed for the final drafts.
Yes, I circled that.
But thank you for pointing that out, Council Lady. Any further discussion from the commission? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the Round 16 rental and limited equity housing cooperative projects, grant policies, and scoring matrices. Is there a motion to approve? We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All's in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. The motion to approve the Round 16 rental and cooperative grant policies and scoring matrices passes. Next, we'll move on to the homeownership projects. This was also provided in your packet and is going to be up on the screen, where staff will walk us through any highlights. Turn it back over to you, Director Hubbard.
Thank you. The changes that we made to the homeownership grant policy itself are the same or very similar to the rental policy you can see on the screen here, just clarifying those pieces that I have already discussed. So we can move into the scoring matrix changes. Like with the rental matrix, we changed the ranges, or we were clear on the ranges on the income targets. We did not change the income targets. We did get some feedback of concerns about not addressing our workforce, but we have a good part of our workforce at that 60% or below AMI that cannot get into homeownership. So if we can achieve even a small portion of that is what we're hoping to do in homeownership. And again, once they get and purchase their home, if they win the lottery, they can still stay there. So there's no risk of displacement. It does help with that housing stability. Homeownership is one of the best pathways. Next, we also eliminated special populations across all three project types. Did the same thing here with encouraging more homes with 3 or more bedrooms. And again, adding the language around the fair housing and affirmative marketing. Any questions here before we move to project approach? Yes.
I may be looking at this wrong. On the affordability term, it says the maximum is 12 points, but 81 to 99 is 10 points, so.
Yes, we'll clarify, we'll reconcile all the final numbers on
Gotcha.
that in the scoring matrix.
Okay. Do you think it's 10 or 12?
Let me look at the final piece. Have lots of papers
Okay.
over here, lots of trees.
I think the 60 to
2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
Yeah,
61
there's
to 70
a
is missing.
Okay,
31
right.
to 40.
61 to 70 is not there. That would.
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
missing line. It is 12 total.
Okay, great.
Or a maximum of
Maximum
12
12.
is actually what it is.
Great. That's a big deal.
Okay, next slide. Any other questions on housing security? Okay. Same changes for homeownership with the clarification of the transit stop and at the site for broadband and eliminating the scoring factor around 20 elements for the energy efficiency and sustainability checklist. Any questions? Nope. Okay. And same change to the underwriting criteria on the due diligence around site constraints and environmental hazards instead of evaluation criteria around whether they actually had site constraints, because that's pretty much the case for every property now in Nashville that's available. Next slide.
Okay, so sorry, I did have a question on the, because it was the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
on the other one.
Yeah.
How do we measure that? Like that they conducted extensive, like most of us when we're grading it, we'll be like, okay, they did it, and we just give them 4 points. But how do we actually measure that they conducted extensive due diligence?
We'll have a series of questions that we'll ask of them, as well as give them a narrative to describe to us. So there will be multiple ways that they will be required to demonstrate their level of due diligence. And same change with the reasonable and necessary cost. And I think that is it before we move into rehab. So that is an overview of the homeownership high-level changes from what we presented in December. We request approval of the homeownership scoring matrix and grant policy as presented.
All right, thank you, Director Hubbard, for that presentation. Any additional questions from members of the commission? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion for the approval of round 16 home ownership grants and scoring matrices. Is there a motion to approve? Move approval, is there a second? A second. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion carries, and the round 16 home ownership project for round 16 grant policies and square matrices for homeownership passes. Moving on to the next one, which is the owner-occupied rehab projects. I'll turn over to staff for a presentation.
Thank you. So we have some of the same changes in this grant policy as we have in the other two with regard to funding allocation, the eligibility requirements. We did clarify in section 4.2 around eligible project types and cost, making sure that that a home is not receiving funding that from a program that already has a lien on it, because there are liens when there is over $10,000. This is similar to the other two policies about the any encumbered property there. We wanted to make, and this is, we wanted to spare the grantee from having to look to see if someone, we had originally had said if they have received assistance, but there's no way to really know who all, but if it's through MDHA or THDA or other program, there's a lien, so then that would be the criteria. The other thing we removed, which was just carryover language that we deleted around 5.0 project requirements around the nonprofit ownership in the project. These are owner-occupied rehab. That was just not an applicable section. We added 5.6 on project-specific requirements, requiring that the homeowners be current on their mortgage payments, if applicable, property taxes, and should be current on homeowners insurance if the investment is $10,000 or more. That was, we originally had required the homeowners insurance for all all homeowners, but after hearing back from our rehab folks, there unfortunately are a number of folks that don't have homeowners insurance, but our applicants and our partners felt like, though, if our investment's over $10,000, they should. We're not addressing an insurance issue. We're addressing true maintenance issues and repair issues. So that was actually feedback we received from our comments. Any questions on the revisions to the grant policy? Oh, yes.
A quick question. The comment that was brought up regarding codes, is that something that staff would be willing to respond to?
Absolutely. We want to get clarification there, but we also made some revisions based on the feedback that we got, and if that's not getting to the intent, we'll do a final revision there.
Okay, thank you.
If I might, just to follow up on that, I think that what the point they were raising was the existing code violations identified within the home, that it would be within the work area was what they were requesting.
Right,
So
yes.
that's what you were going to look at. Okay, great.
One comment, so I guess in defense of the current wording, it was, I don't have it up, or I have it up somewhere in front of me, but it was like a general recommendation, not a specification as currently stands.
Yeah, we said encouraged.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I find that pretty appropriate.
Okay. And that's, a lot of these things are evaluation factors or encouraged, not mandates. So I think maybe as the final vote is if the direction of the commission is to keep the existing language or ask us to revise it. But we did make a tweak in the scoring matrix that I'll go back and make sure is reflected in the policy and so that we're consistent. Okay. So in the scoring matrix for rehab, again, same thing with the ranges of the points, as well as eliminating special populations, having marketing and outreach. The other highlighted item at the bottom was actually a comment that we received, was having priorities or policies to prioritize homes most in need of, or most at risk of deterioration and in need of rehab. We thought that was a really great comment and something that we might not intentionally capture without an evaluation criteria like this. Next, any questions on housing security criteria before we move to project approach? Okay. Next, because of the nature of rehab, we don't have the access to transit and all access corridors. This is, we're looking at areas or homes in high pressure areas. There's a map with our market value analysis that will be provided, and it'll be interactive so they can drill down, applicants can drill down on neighborhoods. In the design quality, you can see that we deleted the words, proposes to address all codes issue in the home, not just limited to the scope. 2, propose to address codes issues in the home that threaten the life and safety of occupants so as to protect occupants from fire and other hazards, not just limited to what was identified in the scope of work. That was actually direct language from a stakeholder that we felt like that was a better wording and got to the point we wanted, is that if a home is in such level of disrepair and someone's just coming to do a roof, but there are other threats to the homeowner through life and safety issues, we would want those things addressed. That's the intent of the code's wording. So we will go back to make sure that that's the language that we're accomplishing. Antone. You good? Okay. All right, no change to the underwriting criteria? On this, is there another? Yeah. Oh, sorry, council member.
If I might. So I know that many of these come back for an extension of their deadline. And so right now we are again optimistically saying can complete the project in 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. And so many of these end up getting extended to 4 years. Again, I'm sure we want to encourage doing it faster. Has anyone ever done it that fast?
Absolutely. Actually, our rehab grantees accomplished their projects within their contract scope. I don't know. If there's been an extension, it's probably been very rare.
That's a good point.
But, you know, as more organizations participate, we want to see their timelines and, but also council member, would love to visit the conversation with you on changing the legislation around the contract term at another point.
That's another discussion. Great.
Perhaps we can do that before we go to contract with round 16. Okay, and no other changes to the scoring matrix in the underwriting criteria for the rehab projects. So, if you'll go back. So with that, unless there are other questions?
Thank you for the presentation. Any further questions from commission members? All right, seeing none, I would invite a vote to, a move to approve the round 16 grant policies and scoring matrices for owner-occupied rehab projects. Is there a motion to approve? We have a motion. Is there a second? And a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion to approve the round 16 grant policies and scoring matrices for owner-occupied rehab projects carries. Now move on to the next item, which is the approval of a revised round 16 timeline.
Thank you, Chair. Of course, we're pushed back a month from the cancellation of last month's meeting, but also we are in the process of finalizing a contract with Zoom Grants. We thought we were going to be going with Neighborly, but that did not work out. So now we've moved to Zoom Grants, and as soon as we can get that executed, which should be any day now, we can begin working with them. Their timeline for the helping us get the application questions loaded into the platform should only be a few weeks. So we would certainly be able to release the, or open the window before the end of March. We don't have exact dates because I didn't want to have to come back again for an amendment. So what we're asking you to do is to approve this general timeline that we would open round 16 at some point in March. We would have an information session on each of the project types in April. We would allow 8 weeks of an application window. That is feedback that we heard is people need more than 30 days or a month to get their information together. It would take us approximately 2 weeks for threshold review. That might be less because Zoom Grants does have a feature that actually doesn't move applications forward if they don't meet certain threshold criteria. We just need to see how that plays out. And then allowing the evaluation committee 4 weeks to do the reviews. And this would still only put us back a month. We were intending to come to the June Housing Trust Fund meeting with recommendations. This would only put us to the July. So it's still only a 1 month delay in the bringing the awards to the Housing Trust Fund Commission. So that would be the revised timeline.
Director Hubbard, so just to go beyond that a bit, so once we would, if we're able to hit the July target for the approval from the commission, it would then go before council, 3 readings?
One.
Or just 1 reading, okay. So they'd be able to get that done in one of their August meetings?
Probably not by August because we, you will
The
be
following-
approving the contract templates, although we could possibly bring the contract templates in June and start the contract, but the contracting process usually takes a good month.
Yeah.
And then we would have to file, and we need 3 weeks to file. So we're going to be looking at probably the second reading in September.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
You're welcome, but it's only 1 reading.
Any other questions from commission members? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the revised round 16 timeline, please say aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, great.
Next up for items for discussion is a memo on the timing of our annual report. There's a memo that should be in your packet, but I'll pass it back over to staff to walk us through this.
Thank you. So around the end of the calendar year is when Barnes Fund has typically done an annual report, and we are proposing to move that to a September so that we can move to a fiscal year reporting cycle. That also is consistent with how we're going to be reporting on the progress of the Unified Housing Strategy so that we can have all of our performance metrics and data on the same cadence of reports. And so this is just to alert you that in lieu of a report coming for this year, it'll come after the beginning of the next fiscal year, but it'll capture everything since the last report and cumulatively, and then moving forward be on that regular cadence, just letting you know about that.
Any questions? Seeing none, this is something that does not need approval, so no need to vote on this one. All right, next up, yes.
I don't know what the process is. There was a request that was made by one of the speakers about this commission making a public statement on requesting $30 million for the Barnes Fund to be consistent with the Unified Housing Strategy recommendations. Is that something we request now to put on a future agenda, or can we ask to discuss this at this point? What's proper?
I'm gonna look to legal.
I'm peeking over at legal for any guidance.
Well, it's not on your agenda today, so you could put it on a future agenda for discussion and action, but it's not on your agenda today, so discussing it and voting on it today would not be appropriate.
But asking to have it on a future agenda
That's
would be.
totally fine.
Okay.
Anton, do you have a comment on that?
I guess question regarding this, question for Angie, like in the discussions with the mayor's office, is there anything we could do that would help, like make the case for at least 30 million for the Barnes Fund with the discussions that happened pre the budget being officially released?
I mean, the members of the public are always welcome to email council members, the administration on their requests, their budget preferences. There was already a pre-budget hearing the unified housing strategy is clear on the recommendation for Barnes Fund awards and the number of units that we need to put in the pipeline every year. And when we fall behind on that, then that's more that we have to make. But I will defer to, always puts us in an awkward position. Our request includes a $30 million request in our budget request. And so however you feel deem appropriate as an individual and as a commissioner to share your thoughts at any point in time.
Thank you for that explanation. In following the advice of legal, this is something that a commission member has requested to be on the agenda for the March meeting. And we'll just remind everyone that between now and then, we are also, as individuals, able to communicate with our elected officials that have a role in the budget process, and would encourage everyone to do so. In the meantime, all right, coming up for announcements. Our next meeting is going to be March 24th, same time, same location. We're back to Sonny West for a couple meetings in a row, so that's exciting. We'll be having a presentation from Travis Miller from the Metro Housing Division on the Connecting Housing Infrastructure Program. Again, lots of talk about infrastructure and the impacts that it has, as well as a quarterly progress report presentation. And I guess just a quick question, Director, with the quarterly progress report presentation, will that be based on calendar year or fiscal year at this point with our recent?
It'll be the last quarterly report you received.
Still going to be based on that quarterly?
Yes.
Okay.
And we actually have a revision we just did. We have now a dedicated data analyst, so happy, who has just worked with the Barnes team on a deep reconciliation. So we have a revision, and we just want to make sure, since this was a packed agenda, instead of doing it today, we just are pushing it to next month.
Sounds good. Any further announcements from members of the commission? I appreciate everyone's time today, and for those of you in the audience, appreciate your time as well. We look forward to moving forward with everything from round 16 and look forward to future conversations, and hope you come back to join us in our March meeting. With that, we'll stand adjourned.